بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات. واللعن دائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. Tonight is the last night in this series of lectures that we prepared for Muharram. There's been a request that we discuss the causes of Karbala and the effects of Karbala. We discussed the notion of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam in the Holy Quran. We mentioned certain ayahs in the Holy Quran and certain ahadith that explained the relationship with the Holy Quran and Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Very briefly, I want to mention certain points regarding this, and I'll carry on. So some people ask that the wahy that comes down to the Prophet ﷺ, is it the same as the other prophets? Also, the Imams, do they have the ability to receive wahy or not? This is a discussion that needs 10 sessions by itself, but I'm going to try to squeeze it in 10 minutes. And the answer is that wahy is in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a connection between man and Creator. And when I say man, I don't mean male, I mean human. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connects with them in a particular way. As we recite in the Holy Quran, Maryam, and also the mother of Musa alayhi salam, were people that were not prophets, yet they had the ability to take wahy. Obviously, their ability to take wahy, and their wahy was a different level to the other Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then you have the A'imma alayhimus salatu wassalam. The reason I mentioned this, and I said that it doesn't matter if it's male or female, is because the two ladies I mentioned were not male. And as well as the A'imma alayhimus salatu wassalam having this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so does Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. She's known as Muhadditha. Muhadditha does not mean that she narrates hadith, but it's a type of wahi that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onto the Imams and this lady. Hence, the A'imma, the 14 Ma'sooms, are talking Qur'ans. The riwayat that we take from the 14 Massoumian are just as important as the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt, are just as important as the Holy Quran, because it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, that being said, the causes of Karbala are causes of human wants in history. Every single one of us have needs and have wants. We've discussed this throughout 10 nights now. We've said that every human has a choice to make of how they interact with their wants, with desires, with their shahwa. And depending on how strong their iman is, how strong their faith is, how strong they're able to defend themselves against the desires of dunya, it matters of how high they go in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, there are certain human beings in history that would do anything for dunya and have done anything for dunya. When a person is willing to kill for power, to steal for power, to commit injustice for power, it becomes a menace to society. Literally, the divide between humans can be seen in two parts. Even in ourselves, into this discussion tonight, there is two types of beings. There is one that tries to have willpower and strives to be better than everyone else. For example, you have a bunch of friends, bunch of relatives. You come to the mosque. There is an aim that you have. You want to better yourself, for example, correct? Or at school, you want to better yourself. You want to get better grades. There is two ways to do this. Is to have willpower, spend time, effort, money, and try to get closer to the goal that you're trying to get to. There is a different type of person. Instead of exercising willpower and spending time and effort into reaching the goals, what do? They drag down the others. So they don't have the ability or the willpower to succeed. So what they do is they try to be enemies with the people that do and the people that have succeeded. Some people have the ability to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have the willpower. Every day they do different things in the way of Allah, and they get closer and closer and closer, and they feel it. Some people see this interaction, and instead of saying, you know what, I'll put that person as a role model, what do they try to do? They try to dig a hole for them to fall into. There is a hadith that says, "Man hafara bi'rin li'akhih faqad waqa'a fih." It's beautiful. Try to memorize it. It says, whoever tries to dig a well for his brother to fall into will fall into himself. And that's the philosophy of life, by the way. Anyone that tries to dig a hole for you, they will fall into that hole themselves before you fall into it. But the point is, there is two divisions of people. There is one type of person that cannot see your success, that cannot be happy for you, that cannot strive to be like you and put you as a role model. So what do? They try to pull you down, give you negative energy, be jealous of you. And there's another person who says, you know what, mashallah, you've been able to achieve this in your life. You're so young, you've done 1, 2, 3, 5. Please help me so I can be like you, so I can serve as well, I can succeed as well. Now, the person who is jealous, the person who's trying to pull down the successful person, will not succeed in dunya or akhirah. They may succeed in a temporary basis only. Eventually, everything is shown and everything is clear. Now, with regards to what led to Karbala, it's the same thing. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam were surrounded by two people. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was surrounded with two types of people. There were people when he said that I'm from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have this miracle called the Quran, and I'm this, and I have these logics and these intellectual arguments with you. There were two types of people. One who said, let's raise a sword against him because he may take our power away. And there was others that says, you know what, let's hear what he has to say. And if it's correct, we'll become one of his followers. We'll become successful and faithful like himself. At the time of the Prophet, there were people that tried to kill him. Those same people became so-called Muslims. With regards to the Ahlul Bayt, it was a line that continued. History repeated itself after and again and again. The Prophet, Fatima al-Zahra, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hassan, Hussain. The difference is, and this is an important point to analyze, what happened with Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam was something that will remain in history until Day of Judgment. All of you who are in touch with media and understand the power of media and the power of advertising can connect with Ashura and what happened with Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam in that way. How? You look at what happened to Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam and what happened to his family in Ashura. Why did Imam Hussain take his family, for example? Why did he not leave his wife and kids? so that generation after generation they can see what happened. Why did Imam Hussain take the 6-month-old baby to the enemies? It's important to think about this, yeah? Imam Hussain takes a 6-month-old baby. Why? He knows what's going to happen. Why take a 6-month-old baby? Imagine, Imam Hussain is trying to tell me, you, generation after generation that comes after us, that right now he is in a position where he has the biggest cameras focused on him, the greatest newspapers writing it down, satellite channels are all around him, all the news agencies. They're taking photos of Imam Hussain holding a baby that's 6-month-old. What is he trying to say? He's trying to say all humans, not just Muslims, not just Shias, all humans, look at this. You can tell who is haqq and who is batil, who is correct and who is not correct, who is with Allah, who is against Allah, by just this one scene. What is the one scene? He's saying, look, there is a 6-month-old baby. He says to them, if we have done wrong, then there is no sin of this 6-month-old baby. If you don't want to give me water because you don't trust me, take the kid, give it water, and then bring it back. Now the enemy had many choices. They could have taken the kid, the baby, they could have watered it and given it back. They could have kept it until Ashura was finished and give it back to the ladies. They could have given just the amount to be able to quench the thirst of the baby. But what do? In front of everybody, they beheaded the baby with an arrow. And media all around wrote this down for history to remember. What sort of a person who claims to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Don't forget, Yazid claimed to be from Allah. He said, I am the Khalifa of Allah on earth for mu'mineen. And this is a question that we can raise to every person out there. Whoever believes that Muawiyah and his son Yazid were the prophets, were the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, has to answer this question. What sort of Khalifa is part of a tragedy like this? Who commits this sort of act? Not a normal, decent human being can possibly be part of this, let alone someone that is saying that they're from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the whole point is, it's a media circus, not just for that time, but for every generation afterwards to be able to take and react to it. If you look at around the world today, the majalis of Imam Hussain والسلام, are growing in numbers every single year. And they're packed every single year. Why? It's because of how things occurred with Imam Hussain and his children. One aspect that's very important I want to mention tonight, because my majalis are finished, is with regards to the ladies of Karbala. Because I see that it's rarely mentioned. In our society today, unfortunately, we live in a society that's male dominant in our Islamic societies. Much of the laws that are put down by men because of their interests, not because it's Islam. So Muslims act in a certain way. Muslims profit and have their interests in a particular way. And that is said to be the Islamic values, which is not the case. If you want the Islamic values, look at Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. The ladies that were most influential in Islamic history are Khadija al-Kubra, Fatima al-Zahra, Zainab al-Kubra. These ladies acted how? Khadija al-Kubra was a financier. She financed Islam. In today's society, until today, this is 2019 I'm talking, 2019, yet we find it difficult that a woman may be able to do finances. She might not understand economics. Yet, Islam is telling us, you would not be a Muslim if it wasn't for Khadija. If it wasn't for this businesswoman, not businessman, businesswoman, you would not be here as a Muslim today. If it wasn't for her and her intellect and the way she ran her business. 2, Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha. The chapter of Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha is too great to cover tonight. The only thing I want to cover is the ladies of Karbala. One of them is Zainab al-Kubra. Zainab al-Kubra went through the worst tragedies. However, look at the way she acted on them. Not at any single point, this woman who's been taken captive stayed quiet. She gave lectures, she gave talks which brought down Bani Umayyah. Imam Hussain had to rise against, who did he have to rise against? Bani Umayyah. What was Bani Umayyah doing? They were committing injustices not just against humanity but against Islam. Why? All the hadith that you see today about God having hands, having eyes, sitting in a particular place, about the Prophet committing haram sins, these were made up at the time of Bani Umayyah. Religion was becoming something that was at risk. Hence Imam Hussain had to go against it. But what happened after Karbala, these nights, after Ashura, was in the hands of the ladies, not in the hands of the men. There was no man left. It was the project of Zainab Salamullah alayha that revived it. First of all, her intellect. If you read the khutbah of Zainab al-Kubra Salamullah alayha, and it's everywhere, you can just type into Google and see it. Read the khutbah of Zainab al-Kubra. Was she a lady that was illiterate? Look at the way she speaks Arabic. The grammar, the poetry. Who does she give a talk to? In front of a room full of men with swords in their hands. They're shaking and this woman is standing straight. She is the captive and they're the rulers. This is something that history wrote down. This is why we're here today. It was her and her talk that she gave again and again that made it apparent to people who Bani Umayyah truly is and the followers of Yazid who truly are. Why? Because just like today, as we see many people use the name of Islam for their own interests, for their own benefits. They say, you know what, Islam is this. Why? Because they want to have power. They kill in the name of Islam and they say, you know what, you're a shaheed. Why? Because they have power. The same thing happened back then. Yazid was using people, telling them, you know what, if you kill Imam Hussain, you will go to heaven. One of the hadith says that an old man came on the day of Ashura late. And he said to Allah, Ya Allah, forgive me for being late at such a great act of killing Hussain ibn Ali. He was asking Allah for forgiveness for not being on time to take part in killing of Hussain ibn Ali. This is the mindset that they had. This is how people can be brainwashed. That the only grandson of the Prophet, the son of the daughter of the Prophet, on earth is killed and they kill qurbatan ila Allah, to become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like today. Various men in power with long beards and big amamas sit, and what do? They order people to kill so that they can keep the throne. And then they say, you know what, you'll be in heaven if you do this. And they're promised what? They're promised dunya. And if you come back alive, this is what you get. If you die, your family will get this. Nothing has changed, and it will continue. But what I'm saying is there are certain things that, just like the media today, and the power of media is greater than the power of guns, Imam Hussain and the women of Imam Hussain use the power of media for me and you, for tabligh of the madhab. That even though you may be captive, even though you may be oppressed, even though you may be a woman, you can stand up for your rights and say what you need to say. If truly what you're doing is haqq, and you're in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's nothing wrong with it. Zainab al-Kubra had reached the stage that we talked about of yaqeen. This is my last word on this matter. She had reached a stage where she saw the truth. She had conviction. That's why when Ibn Ziyad told her, when he took it in, she said, what about all the things that happened to you? If your God is so good, if your religion is so good, look what happened to you. She said, I did not see anything apart from beauty. Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, you all heard of it. What does it mean, the woman that's gone through so much trials and tribulations says that I've not seen anything from my Lord apart from beauty? It means I've got conviction. It means I have yaqeen. That these things that you're telling me are done by you. But my Lord loves me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me. And I can't wait to get back to Him. That comes from conviction. Some people lose a loved one. Some people lose money. They lose their faith with it. There are people, when they have a loved one that dies, they stop praying for 3 days. Oh, I'm not talking to God anymore because my loved one has died. What sort of nonsense is that? If you have conviction, doesn't matter what trials or tribulation comes your way, it doesn't move your faith. It makes it stronger and stronger. No one has been through what Zainab has been through, yet look at her. Look at the end result. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the greatest people around him with the greatest iman was Salman al-Farsi. Salman was a man that was alive after the Prophet as well. Salman al-Farsi did not die after the Prophet. He was alive at the time of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. There's a narration that says that Salman was walking through a particular place in Medina. He saw a man sitting down with a girl. Salman is an old man, bear this in mind. White beard. The man says, Ya Shaykh. Shaykh is in Arabic used for old people. Shaykh is for old man, Shaykha is for an old lady. He says, Oh Shaykh, what religion are you? Salman says, Muslim. The man says, I am a Jew from Bani Israel. When we have trouble, when we have a problem, we sit down, a group of especially old men, and we do tawassul to Musa alayhi salam, so that through Musa, our haja will be given. Now you're an old man, I'm going to ask you something. Can you ask your God, your Lord, to give shafa to my daughter? She has both eyes, cannot see. She's blind in both eyes. And she had ailments in her body. I've done everything for her. Nothing has helped. Oh Salman, if you pray and she gets shafa, I will give you all the money you want. I'm a very rich man. I live in Sham. I have a business. I'll give whatever money you want. Salman says, I don't want your money, but I'll take you to a doctor who will cure her. The man says, I've gone to all the best doctors in the world. I don't need to go to a doctor. If you're going to take me to another doctor, it's useless. I've been to the best doctors in the world. Salman says, no, this doctor is different. Come with me. So he says, okay. Salman says, if I take you to this doctor and your daughter is cured, would you become Muslim? Instead of giving me money, would you become Muslim? He says, anything for this daughter. If this happens, I will become Muslim. Salman takes the man, the Jewish man, and the daughter to the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He knocks on the door. Ali says, who is it? He says, Salman. Salman, what do you want? I have a guest for you. Come in. Salman says, this is a Jewish man. He has a haja. His daughter is blind in both eyes and she has ailments in her skin and her body. We want shafa from you. Amir al-Mu'minin says, this is in the hands of Hussain. Oh Hussain, come. Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam comes. He orders for some water to be put on the ground. Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam puts his hand in the water. He says, take some of the water and put it on her face. As soon as they put the water that Imam Hussein's hand has been in, she opens her eyes. Before the father, she says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa. Because she was blind, she was not deaf. She could hear the conversation that was going on. She said, before my father says it, I will say it. And she said that Ali alayhi salam is Hujjatullah and so is Hussain, because she had heard the names. Amir al-Mu'minin said, take the rest of the water at the back, pour it on her skin, all her ailments will be gone as well. So the man recites his Shahadatain, the Jewish man becomes a Muslim and leaves. The next day the man returns to Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam, knocks on the door. Ali opens the door and says, I gave you what you wanted. He says, I have one more request. Before I go back to Sham, I want my daughter that has become a complete person physically, to become a complete person spiritually. I want her to be raised in an Islamic family, in Islamic environment. Take her as a servant in your household. If you do this for me, I will be appreciated. Amir al-Mu'minin says, okay, leave her here and go. This girl stays at the house of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wassalam, with Imam Hussain, Imam Hussain, Kulthum and Zainab salamullah alayha, in the house of Fatima Zahra salam. The man goes back to Sham. The people that he sees become Muslim. The people that he narrates it to became Muslim. After how many years? He comes back to Medina again. And he goes to the house of Ali. Ali alayhi salam says, okay, now you take your daughter with you. He says, oh Ali, have you seen anything bad from her? He says, no. But a girl reaches a certain age that she should become married. Now she loves us and she loves her father, but now is the time you take her home and she becomes married. The narrator says that when she heard, her name was Hind by the way, when Hind heard that she was about to leave the house of Fatima, she fell on the feet of Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, crying and kissing the feet of Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, saying that everything I have and I have learned, I've learned from you. And you have treated me better than your own children. But if Ali says go, I will go. So she goes back to Sham. She goes back to Sham, and as dunya has it, because she was from such a wealthy family, Muawiyah asked her hand in marriage for Yazid. She marries who? Yazid ibn Muawiyah. She lives in a castle in Sham and she becomes a princess. A princess who's brought up in the house of Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. One of the days, if we can have the lights off please. One of the days that she's in the castle with Yazid ibn Muawiyah, she hears commotion on the streets. Hind turns around and asks, what's going on? What is the noise on the streets of Sham? Do you know what the noise was? The noise was Zainab salamullah alayha and the captives of Karbala being dragged on the streets of Sham. The noise was the noise of Ruqayya salamullahi alayha. When this 3-year-old daughter came through Kufa and into Sham, the hadith says that she looked onto her auntie. At that particular night she began to cry. Every time that someone went to her, she said, I want my father. She said, nothing else will be good for me apart from my father. He said she cried so loud for so many hours that the voice of this 3-year-old daughter was heard in the Qasr of Yazid, in the castle of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. When Yazid heard the voice of this 3-year-old girl, he said to them, Ayyuhan nas, can you not hear the daughter of Hussain crying? Go and take Hussain to her. They brought the head of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam to this 3-year-old girl. The 3-year-old orphan has been crying for her dad. She opens her eyes and sees the head of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam in front of her. So now Hind is asking, oh Yazid, what is the commotion? Why is everyone crying? He says nothing. Certain Khawarij came, we killed them, we took the ladies captive. She says, I want to go and see. And goes down the castle on the streets of Sham. She sees a bunch of women sitting down on the ground. The slaves and the servants of her put down a carpet. Hen sits down on the carpet and says, who is the person that is in charge of you? They point to Zainab Salamullahi alayha. She says, I am the person in charge of the ladies. Who are you? She says, I am the princess here. My name is Hind. Oh lady, where did you come from? Where have you come from? Zainab Salamullah alayha says, we are from Medina. She says, which Medina? She says, the Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. When Hind hears this, she's grown in the house of Ali. She gets up, puts her hand on her head, and she says, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. She sits down, now she sits down on the ground without the carpet in front of Zainab Salamullah alayha. She says, oh lady, tell me about Medina of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. I grew up in this city. What do you know of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam? What do you know of my master Hussain ibn Ali? What do you know of my master Zainab Salamullah alayha? She raises her head. She says, I am Zainab, the daughter of Ali. And that head is the head of your master Hussain ibn Ali. Hind puts her hands on her head, screams out and says, Wa Muhammada, Wa Aliya. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم. يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. There are sick people that have contacted me today. For all those sick people, please 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 And دعاء فرج everyone. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن عليه وعلى آبائه وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.